Hi, my name is James, but most of you know me as Red Spark. I'll be taking you through a tutorial today on an interesting feature that's within Poser 10 and 2014 Pro. Now, I don't know about you, but of course I'm a big Toon fan, as many of you probably do know that. Uh, One of the things that I've always wanted and have tried to find a way to do is to have dynamic toon hair. Now, most of the time, the toon hair that we have is really rigid and it only moves so far. It's not very flexible. And there's no nice mechanism inside Poser to give you some dynamics until now. Let me just show you. For instance, with this hair tuft figure that I have, I'm just using this as an example. This will basically work with any hair figure, but I'm just going to show you what normally happens. So I load my toon figure, and I've already, of course, loaded Chip, and now I've loaded his hair. So I'm just going to conform it to Chip. And if I tilt his head back and forth, see here, the hair just kind of sticks off. Now, fortunately, this hair figure has been adjusted to have some extra posability, so there are some ability to pose the hair. But if you notice, it's not really bending at the right spot for the angle of the head. And so it just doesn't look right. And even if we try to adjust the fact that it has tips here, when it adjusts, it's not at the right spot. It should be up here, closer to where the hair actually hits the side of the face. But in other angles, you don't want it bending in that spot. So the controls that are on the figure are very limiting for the hair, and it can only do so much. And morphs are even worse, because morphs aren't really meant for rotation of things. They're only meant for translation. So it's an illusion that if you sit there and rotate the hair, it looks like it's rotating. It's only an illusion, because at some particular point where you're dialing up that dial for the morph, it's going to start bending like toffee off the hair, and it'll look really, really weird. So what we want is a nice way of having hair to kind of interact with the figure that it's on. So I'm going to use, to do this, the new feature of the bullet physics. Now, I think this is an absolutely awesome set of controls inside Poser. It's more than just bouncing balls. You can do the soft tissue physics with it, and it's great for things that you don't even expect you're going to use it for. So let's get this started. Let's create a new simulation. I opened up the bullet physics window, and now I'm creating a new simulation. And the first thing you want to do once you've created your new simulation, doesn't really matter what the name was, you click the Objects button to bring up all the objects in the scene to declare what type of object it's going to be. In this case, we're focusing on choreographed and soft dynamic. So we want Chip to be a choreographed figure. So I only really need the head in the choreographed, just so that it's hitting the head properly. And then I'm going to go to the soft dynamic, and I'm going to make the hair tuft figure a soft dynamic figure. So if we say OK, bullet physics has this awesome little thing that makes productivity so much faster in defining your physics, the properties in your physics simulation. what you want to use is the live simulation. Now, if I try to do that now, we're going to get not what we want. We're going to get an instant haircut here. But let's just show you here. So I haven't done anything. It's just been declared that the hair figure is a soft tissue simulation object. I'm going to click that, and boom, instant bald. Okay, so that's not what we wanted. So let's clear that, pop all the hair back in place. What we want to do is have a way to kind of say, okay, that hair is rooted right here and it's not going to move. So the way we do that is we go into, under the objects here, make sure that the objects for hair tuft is selected, and then we go under constraints and we create a new self constraint. And what that does is it allows us to apply a weight map to the figure to say how much of the figure in what areas of it, vertex by vertex, is actually a part of the simulation. So some vertexes are going to be completely in the simulation. Other vertexes are going to be completely not in the simulation, or basically rooted, just like the conforming figure was originally just plain rooted to his head. Then there's going to be other vertexes that are going to be at various stages in between that, designating basically how much of it is going to be attempted to move around dynamically and how much of it's going to kind of say, okay, no, you have to spring back into the same shape that it was before it was declared as being a simulation. It's going to try to retain its shape as much as possible. So let's go into this, and what that'll let me do, you see I've got the brush here that's all those circles, and what that'll let me do is it'll let me paint onto the hair where I want it to be dynamic and where I don't want it to be dynamic. First of all, let me set everything to 0 so that it's all set to dynamic, and then I'm going to turn around and say I want something more constrained. And I've got the radius set to about 0.047, and my magnitude is set to 1. Now that means as soon as that sucker hits this very inner circle, it will change all of that from the 0 up to the 1, and then the areas between the very outer circle and the inner circle on your brush, it's kind of becoming gradient between those 2 points. Now there's not a lot of room, but that's fine. Don't worry about it. We will smooth it out afterwards. So let's just try and route all these strands fast to the head. And what we want to do is just kind of build outwards so that we have a nice area here that's rooted fast to the head. And that way the strands won't fall off. Now let me just rotate my camera around, see if I lose my brush this time. No, I didn't. That's good. And there's a few more that I know on this side are going to fall off if I don't root them. But let's just say, for instance, I don't know that just yet. Let me click the live simulation and we'll see. Okay, so we still have some strands that fell off. Not good. So we'll disable the live simulation, clear the simulation to put the hair back in place, and then we'll add some more of this constraint. And what we want to do is get as many of these in place as we possibly can so that it holds the hair in place, but not necessarily so much so that it can't function dynamically anymore. So what we'll do is we'll just add all that in there and just see how it goes. All right, so let's try the live simulation again. Boom. Okay, all the strands of hair are hanging now. They're not falling off his head, which is a good thing. So right now what we want to do is, you notice that the hair is really limp. So what we want to do is, I'll just shut down the weight painting. We want to adjust our properties. First thing we want to do is increase the internal pressure to try and blow up the tubes of hair. So I'm going to put that at 0.5 just to expand them out a little bit, to give them a little bit of substance. If your hair figure needs it, you can go all the way up to 1, and it will give it a little bit more of a balloon-like appearance, but I think usually with this one anyway, at about 0.5, maybe a little bit more, it should give it enough of, inflation to it that it gives it life, but it doesn't make it so that it can't move around too much. It's like blowing up an inner tube. It'll flop around with only a little air in it, but if you blow it up completely, it retains its shape completely, but it doesn't move as much. And the same kind of idea here, it doesn't move as much. So what we're going to do now, though, is we're going to try and get it so that it goes back to looking very similar to what it was before. You notice it's kind of ballooning away from the head. We don't want it to lose its shape that much. So let's try and smooth things out to get the hair back more towards the head, but still retain its dynamics. All right, so let's go back into our weight painting. And what we want to do now is go to smoothing. And the brush and all its settings should still be fine. I've got the radius here on the smooth at 0.078, and the magnitude is still 1. But what we're going to do is we're going to smooth things out more. And I've got the live simulation still checkmarked, so it should give us a little bit of an interaction. As soon as I let go of this brush, you notice everything kind of pops in a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of move the brush over different areas, let it move, pop into place a little bit better, and we're just going to kind of try and move and smooth things out more so that the hair all kind of moves a little bit better into place. This might take a little bit, so hang in there. Notice in the back it's really far away, so I'm gonna kind of smooth all the way down and over if we can. And notice all the hair starts pulling together, starts pulling a little bit closer to the head. So you just want to keep doing this until you get it so that it's a little bit closer to what the figure used to look like, the hairstyle. If you go too far, you can always use the settings to remove the different colors of the vertexes there, the different parts of the weight map. You can do that so that it kind of, you just want to get it to the point where it retains its shape, but still is able to move around a bit. And so all the way at the top, you can see that the highest value is green, and then it gradients back out to a darker blue color. And that all just shows basically what the strength of the weight map is. So keep doing that until you get everything the way that you want. Okay, now that's getting a little bit better. That's getting a little bit better. It's closer to the head. And I think everything's kind of retaining its shape a little bit better for the original style. Now if I go over to the settings again, and we'll see if we can adjust these maybe so that the hair might come back a little bit closer. So let me drop the collision to 0.1 and see if that pulls things in a little bit. There we go. I dropped it to 0.05 for collision. I think that's pretty close without it being too bad, too over the top. Okay, I think that retains its original style quite well. Now, still with live physics simulation running, what we can do is we can test it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the head. I'm going to move the head sideways. And as you can see now, the hair is still holding to the head. But as you can see, the hair now is falling across the face in the proper way. It's all jiggling around and flopping about. And as we move over this way, you can see now the hair is actually sliding down along the side of the face the way it's supposed to. It's a much nicer approach. And if you get your weight map just right, get it all smoothed out, then you will have a really nice dynamic hairstyle. And when you do things like animation and so on with it, you don't have to sit there and adjust. The hair won't look like a stiff bone rather than it being actual nice flexible hair. Okay, so that's my kind of demonstration. Go play with all the hair figures that you can find for your toons. See what works for you. Some hairstyles might work better than others for this. I really find that the tubular style of hair figures work really well. It has its drawbacks. It's not a perfect system, but I think that for things like animation, the amount of work that you save, the productivity that goes into it, that you gain from using this type of dynamic hair is really a great payoff. And I think it's an awesome feature in Poser 10 and 2014 Pro. Anyway, good luck with your renders, and we'll see you next time. Bye.